Hey, you whiny ass sack of perverts. Lee Honish. I have survived Las Vegas, miraculously. I was there. I went to FFC on Friday night. I went to watch Top Rank on Saturday, as you guys are all aware. If you're following on the social media, this is some bonus shit for you. So Andrew dropped a pretty big bombshell on me this morning. We're going to record at some point on Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to push it closer to Monday, but whatever. I'm going to get Andrew up and down, and we will talk about the epic upset that went down on Saturday. I personally thought fight of the year. I don't know if I've ever been in spitting distance of a fight that was that good. I'm usually a lot further back to actually watch the drama, but we'll talk about it more in detail. I had a really good time. Most of the fight card was crap. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Bob Arum seems to have a relationship going on with what is it, the Fight Factory or the Fight Laboratory out of Oxnard. So I got a big, strong dose of Vasily Lomachenko guys. You saw that on the ESPN app, and it was also on the undercard as well. Most of the ESPN fights, Bob has invested heavily into that Lomachenko Oxnard crowd. I got some tremendous inside dirt from a security guard about Floyd and his gambling habits that I will share this week as well. So I absolutely guarantee Floyd's getting back in the ring. Absolutely guaranteeing Floyd's getting back in the ring because he can't afford his own bad habits. So what I have for you for bonus shit to tide you over, and yes, I will put this out on the regular channel as well. For those of you listening on our regular broadcast channels, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, YouTube channels, however you get the show. I am the voice of the World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation official podcast, and I did an interview with Christina Marks. For those of you who don't know who know, listen, boxing fans, you should be into this shit, okay? Here's why. It's stand-up without gloves. It's boxing, no gloves. That's what this is, with people you know from MMA and boxing. So Christina Marks is one of the women who's fighting on this card. I did about a 40-minute interview with her. It's not a standard, boring. The first 10 or 15 minutes, I got to be honest, are typical interview. And then the stuff you guys are looking for. I actually found a pretty good list of awkward questions or interesting questions to ask someone off the web, and I just decided to throw those out there. I have one interview coming up with Chris Lieben this week. Maybe I'll ramp it up and find. I think I'm going to get it to the level where I want to do Cards Against Humanity type level interviews. I want them to be really awkward and weird questions, like if you had to kill one friend and keep one friend. Like, I really want to get it that far. This was just sort of the trial run because I'm brand new with WBKFF, and I don't want them to pull the plug on the program just yet. I'll also, again, subscribe. It's available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. It's not quite on iHeartRadio yet, but it will be shortly. But it's on all the other normal channels. I'll, of course, post them up on the FightNet Radio main page. Just type in fightnetradio.com. I think that I cover everything for you. You guys should be up to date. So there might be a show recorded for FightNet Radio tonight, maybe tomorrow. But I'm throwing you a bonus shit bone right now, which I'm putting out on our regular broadcast channels because I was really happy with this interview. What else? Did I cover everything? I'm going to talk about FFC this week, so that'll be a bonus shit. I was there at this thing, and it was all MMA, but there was a kid named Austin who was just threw some hands. So, yeah. I got all kinds of shit. It was a busy weekend for me of covering fighting and fighters and talking to fights. I even went to some amateur wrestling over at the Hilton. It was a busy weekend, to say the very least. And I'm very happy that the Chargers didn't lose. I still have to watch the Rams game. It's 2 o'clock now. I just finished this interview. So here's some bonus shit for you, right? And I will record Andrew. He did really drop an epic mofo bombshell on me this morning. But I guessed it, and I got it correct before he actually dropped it. We'll see if he talks about it on the show. I can't give away stuff like that, but it was pretty cool. That should do it. Go to fightnetradio.com. That'll keep you up to date on everything. We update everything there. You get all the pictures from the weekend. I mean, I was literally on the stage next to the ring. I was tabled. They actually gave me a really sweet spot. And I can say this about the Park Theater. The staging that ESPN put on was amazing. They don't get enough. They should get a lot of kudos for the way they staged this thing. If you were watching it, I think looking back into the ring from their side looks like shit because it looks onto the stage where it's all press and production people. So it's not quite as cool as the other way around. So the camera's shooting back into the audience. So you don't really get to see what their perspective of it is. I wonder if there's a way to kind of fix that staging a little bit, or maybe turn the lights down on the stage so you don't focus on us as much. So there's a lot of press and a lot of international press. All right, you guys are up to date. Go to fightnetradio.com. You'll get lots of content this week all over the place. I'll try to stick a lot of it up. But when it comes to bonus shit, unless it's something that I'm just blown away by, you're not going to hear it on a regular Fight Net radio channel unless I don't have Andrew and I'm just trying to buy time kind of thing. Does that make sense? I guess. So here you go. Here's some bonus shit. This is from the WBKFF podcast.com, the official World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation podcast, starring your host, your favorite person of mine, Lee Honish. Thanks.
World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation presents Rise of the Titans live on pay-per-view, Friday, November 9th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. To order, contact your pay-per-view provider.
I'll beat your ass. Yeah. I'll beat your ass. I'll beat your ass. I'll beat him on God. Talk slick, move quick like a
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation podcast, the official podcast. My name is Lee Honish. Today I am joined by fighter Christina Marks of... Okay, so I look at one profile, it says Orange, but you've got an 858 number like me. So are you San Diego or are you Orange?
I am San Diego. I moved to Orange County for a little bit, and then I moved back to San Diego, but I just didn't, update my profile.
So we're here to talk about your upcoming fight in the World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation. You are very crazy. We were just talking about this before we started. This is really crazy stuff. First of all, for those listening for the first time, or you happen along, or you're just Christina's friend and you're listening, she's just going to tape up her hands and go pound on someone else. This is a real bloody, ugly fight.
Right.
You're a very pretty person. Now, there are some very ugly people on this card. Let's take Chris Lieben, for example. Not going to affect Chris at all right? It's not going to hurt. You, Sean Merriman, people who, are attractive-looking human beings, bad. I don't know.
Everything
why...
heals up, so it'll be okay.
All right, let's first talk about how did you come to the World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation?
Basically, they reached out to me through via Facebook. I looked through my messages randomly, and Paul Tyler, he reached out to me quite, I want to say, beginning of this year, and we were in negotiation of me hopping on board, and finally we came to terms, and I agreed to it, and that's basically how it came about.
For those listening and everybody wondering why it's a very reputable group of fighters, and I keep saying this, they're paying really good money. This isn't some schlubby outfit. You're getting paid to go do the work. Exactly.
Like if it been a fighter for 10 years, and now it's more about the pay and just everything that goes into it. And it all makes sense, especially since me being the Ultimate Fighter show, we opened up the new weight class at 125. Now 125 weight class flyweight is pretty saturated now when it comes to UFC and Invicta. So a lot of us are just waiting to fight. So why not, do something like this in between those fights of MMA, because I still be fighting MMA as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. So you're fighting, I've got it right, Jasmine Clarkson?
Correct.
And what do we know about Jasmine Clarkson?
I know Jasmine Clarkson is a boxer. She has quite a few boxing matches under her belt. I know that she is 5'3", which I'm 5'7". She's a southpaw, so I've just been working my whole fight camp based off of her being a southpaw and just trusting my reach as well, because since I am going to have a longer reach than her and I am taller.
Okay, where are you training at currently? Who is working on your stand-up for this?
Yeah, so normally I fight for Arena, where Chris Lieben is actually my wrestling coach. But I stepped away from Arena. Yeah, so I've known him for a while. So I stepped away, and I wanted to completely change my mind frame, and I went with Bomber Squad, that's in San Diego, El Cajon. They're a complete boxing gym, and that way I can just not think about MMA at all and just change my mindset on strict boxing.
And how much time are you... So you've been spending time on boxing. How long has this camp been specifically?
I've been in camp for almost 2.5, 3 months, because I was actually supposed to fight last month, and they pushed it off to November. So I kind of already knew this was going to happen, so I've been in camp for a while now.
For those of you wondering in the background, Christina's son, right? I got it right, is playing baseball.
Yeah,
at the
my
moment.
son. He's playing baseball.
How old is he?
He's 10.
He's 10. All right. This is the thing I
Yeah.
did for a friend of mine that I'm going to do for you. Let's document your history so it's out there on the web. So when he comes back and hears this one day, he will know the whole story of why mommy is crazy. Because you are. I tell everybody who does this, it's an insane sport. All of these are insane sports. How does it all start off for you? Where do you... So I'm guessing about 12 or 13 years ago, you're starting to get the bug for something?
1 second, hold on.
Yep. Did he get a hit?
Oh, he scored.
That's exciting.
Okay, so
All right.
I actually started fighting 10 years ago. And as I just said, my son's 10. So I started fighting 2 weeks after I had him. So my son is really used to this. To him, fighting any of these fights is just, it's not like it's rare or anything to him. He's just like, oh, another fight. So, I started 10 years ago. My very first fight, he was 3 months old. And I started that with strict MMA.
Okay, so the reason I bring up 12 or 13 years ago, something had to lead up to this. You, going into this, you had to have this. So you're training, I want to go back 15 years. When do you start training and actually getting the inkling, this is what I'm going to do somewhere down the road?
Okay, so before I started fighting, I used to run track and field for San Diego State. I've been an athlete my whole life. And then how it came about, I went to a fight, which was his dad's fight down in Mexico. And I was just really intrigued by it. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. I bet I can do this. And he said, yeah, right. I can never see you doing something like this. And I took it as a challenge. And after I had him, and I just went to started going to practices, and they needed an extra sparring person. I jumped in and wrecked one of the guys on the team, and they're like, we want to do a fight. I said, yep, and rest is history.
Okay, so you got hooked on MMA going to Cage of Fire?
So it was actually in Mexico.
In
TJ, yeah.
It's TJ. That's Ring of Fire. That's
okay, yeah.
That's crazy, because for those of you who don't know, the closest thing I can compare to human cockfighting is Ring of Fire down in TJ, where they put blocks. Yeah. It's a concrete stadium where they put blocks of ice up on the top. People are allowed to smoke in there. I mean, it is literally a bullfighting ring. And in the middle of this is the stiffest Dean taught me MMA, that taught me submission rules there by watching those fights. Dean Lester. Yeah. That's how I remember it. That's a crazy experience.
So when I first had my first fight, it was actually, they built some little tiny ring in the middle of Hong Kong strip club. So that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
That's awesome. For none of you who don't know, I'm not going to go into any further detail because your son is going to find this one day, but let's just say that's awesome. Google, okay, to your son who's now listening to this, 5-10 years down the road, just Google it. Just Google it.